Hello, what's up guys, how's it going? This is Drawing for Beginners. I'm going to go over just a quick overview of drawing and learning to draw in general. So I'm just going to talk about this and hopefully get a little bit out of it. If you're a brand new artist, this is what I'm aiming for. So you're brand new, or you're just like maybe super beginner. What do? Like, you want to learn how to draw specifically, right? Let's just keep painting at it and stuff like that for now. So drawing, you need supplies. I'll tell you the first thing about supplies. Supplies, they matter, but they don't matter. Honestly, a lot of it's going to be the way you learn the construction, the value, the composing the page, anatomy. It's going to be really about that, and it's not going to be so much about what you use. But at the same time, it does kind of matter. Not really. I mean, I can draw with a number 2 pencil, or I could draw with like, any pen under the sun, it's really kind of has to do with kind of what you know, and also the dexterity that your hand is also, because especially when you're brand new at drawing, there's kind of like some new things that you haven't really done. There's a lot of muscles in your arm and even in your hand that you just really haven't used for that particular purpose. So it's only natural that it might be a little bit weird. Like when you're pulling like let's say I have like an outer shape like that, I need to pull a line. I'm off a little bit. See, but I need to pull a line like that, like maybe with more pressure on it. That's going to be, something in your dexterity. That's not so much in your brain. It is in your brain, but it's also a lot of it in your muscles, in your arm, hands, things like that. That's kind of the first thing you kind of have to get through. That's the first hoop, really, improving your dexterity. Pencils, get whatever you want. I recommend these, like graphite pencils right here. They have at the art store. Very common. Derwent. Whatever brand, doesn't really matter, just as long as it's a graphite pencil. Or this is a Prismacolor. Oh, this isn't Prismacolor, it's Cretacolor. But honestly, this is basically a Prismacolor pencil. It's just like a colored pencil, really. And the reason I like this better than, let's say, this right here, a typical one, is because it comes out, sorry about that noise. This comes out really gray and weird, you know what I mean? And this one doesn't really do that. This one has more of like when I start building up value, you know what I mean? It'll be really black, it'll be good to hang up on the wall. I mean, these have that too, but you have to build these up over a long time. That's just my opinion, though. So once you kind of get over the barrier of like, hey, I got this, a decent supply that works for me, and I also have, like I'm starting to improve my control, like I said, control, dexterity of the pencil. What do you really need to do? You honestly have to find out a source. You have to find it depends what you want to draw, by the way, too. Because honestly, I've wanted to draw, people tend to want to get into art to draw other people, usually. But there are people that like still lifes, backgrounds, buildings, that kind of illustration. So it depends what you want to do. I'm going to assume you want to draw people, only because a lot of people want to do that. So let me this is going to be the overview of like what you have to do to kind of draw people. Find a source, find a book, find, tons of good books out there. Find YouTube videos. I have YouTube videos. This is why this is here. Other channels. My other channels, Easy Things to Draw. Enzyme Art. There's a few other channels out there. But the basics, you have to learn the basics. And you can kind of look at a picture and try to draw it, if you see a face. But when you're drawing it, you're not really sure what you're looking at. When you look at a human eye, you're not 100% what you're looking at yet. So it might not look like what it looks like. Or when you draw it, there's some certain things about it, for example, let me give you a quick example. The eye. When I look at the eye, I think of an eyeball shoved into the eye socket, which is what it is. And it has an opening layer of skin that folds back on top of it. But that skin wraps around it. You know what I mean? It completely wraps around it as it opens. You know what I mean? There's this kind of circular motion. Other people would just see like a hieroglyphic, you know what I mean? This kind of flat thing. That would be in the terms of the know-how of, the basics. That's what I mean. Like, I would study if you want to do portraits first, I study the proportions of the head. I'm not going to go over it here now. I'm just kind of giving you an overview of what your journey might be like, what you have to learn. You kind of go over the proportions of the general head. And the reason we go over the general head is because we want a ballpark proportion. We want it to look at least human. You know what I mean? Because I've heard a lot of weird people say, like, oh, if I learn these general proportions, then it's not going to be unique to everybody. No, that's stupid. Maybe at the beginning when you're learning it'll be kind of like not unique, but the thing is you need a ballpark measurement. You need training wheels, to kind of learn this stuff first. You know what I mean? Like where is it that you generally split up the head into thirds from the hairline, and if you don't have a hairline, it's the hairline meaning turning of the skull. Um, so once you do that, you know what I mean? You have to, learn these general proportions, and they're kind of everywhere. And there's even different ones too. Find what works for you. Kind of learn a base of it. You have to really learn the base of it too. And this is not instant, by the way. This is gonna be like a few months, if not years, of like learning this. It took me about 2 years to I think safely draw like a figure ahead, kind of out of my head. You know what I mean? To the point where I was like okay with it. I'm still like you know what I mean? But but drawing from people, you can probably do it within about a year and a half or 2 years, if you train yourself like this, or if you have other people too to train you. So I learned the proportions of the head. I learned kind of the anatomy of things. Anatomy, again, is for the same reason. I go over anatomy so I know what I'm looking at. Sometimes when if you're drawing from a picture, you'll see this bump in his neck and you have no clue what it is if you don't know anatomy. What is that? And but other people will be like, okay, that's a sternocleidomastoid. You know where it connects toward the back of the skull. It generally wraps around the neck here, the muscles of the other muscle of the neck, ties down toward the base of the neck here. Like that because you studied your anatomy, and you know it from different angles too. Maybe you've seen 3D models, maybe you've seen figurines that have that correctly, stuff like that. That's why you learn anatomy. Same thing goes for, like I said, active and inactive anatomy, right? When some guy's making a muscle, that bicep, where does that bicep tie in? Where does it tie in, and how does it look? What's it shaped like when it's active? When it's actually moving, when he flexes. For example, let's just pretend this is the bicep up here, right? This is the tricep on the other side. When the bicep is active, when it's totally active, when let's say he's making a muscle or something, this is totally inactive. I'll just put inactive. When the opposing muscle is inactive when it's active, and it's backwards too. When this is active down here, the tricep, when it bulges out, this is inactive. That's just all stuff it goes to making your drawing more realistic, giving you more dynamic. It's feeding you're feeding your plant to your brain here. It's growing, and it's super fun when you get into it. And so there's so many little rules to this stuff, and you got to small chunk it. You can kind of jump in there too, and I've seen a lot of people do that too. Just jump in there, be a sponge, and that's great. Do that. But it will take time. You have to kind of small chunk these things to memorize them. I would say something that really benefits you too is having a teacher, because they can kind of guide you, but they have to know what they're doing. There's a lot of teachers that don't know what they're doing, and that's just the truth. I'm not trying to be a hater. It's just the reality of it. Some people they just can't find a job in art, so they just start teaching at a college, and they're not really prepared to create artists. You know what I mean? If you want to be a professional artist, you want to learn to draw. If you want to learn to draw really well, sometimes they'll do a couple of things, but they won't really catch little specific things, that you really want critiqued, and you want that stuff ironed out. Otherwise, sometimes you start learning and you start ingraining this really bad habit, so nobody ever corrects you on. So I would highly recommend taking a class somewhere, really looking at the quality of art that's coming out of that class. That's a really good sign. And that would be my recommendation in terms of if you want to draw a person, you know what I mean? And what else would be? Never get bogged down, by the way. You got to make a lot of mistakes. Just by the way, mileage is oh my God. Mileage is so important. Just doing more of it as well as you're on your journey. You're like, okay, I learned a little, for example, I learned the anatomy of the eye or something, let's say out of a book. Just like the anatomy that you can see, right? The eyelid, pupil, iris, stuff like that. So I'm going to draw that in my sketchbook, freaking 4 or 5 pages worth, a day till I got it down. Boom, I can do one out of my head. You know what I mean? And you're always, by the way, when you get good along your journey, you're going to think this stuff's over. You'll be like, oh, I don't need to learn the eye anatomy stuff anymore. Or the nose anatomy. Chances are you might have to go right back to it, even when you're intermediate. You got to, really, really strengthen up that base, this kind of base of art. The actual foundation. You know what I mean? When you have a house, right? If you have a house, the foundation has to be strong. This is your basics, right? That has to be your basics. Then you can do the fun stuff, on top. For example, like aliens that kind of have a humanoid build, you know what I mean? That stuff, and you can remix things. You can remix anatomy. You can remix designs. That stuff on top, but the base has to be solid. Otherwise, if you draw like that's like you draw an alien without, let's say you draw a humanoid alien without knowing a lot about human anatomy, it's gonna look junk. You know, it might look lame. You know what I mean? But if their foundation is super strong, it's gonna make that cool stuff look all the more better. Anyways, that is my rant. I really ranted about that, but I just wanted to give you an idea. If you're brand new, you want to get into art, you know, that's kind of the idea of it. If you want to learn to draw. Thanks a lot, guys. Subscribe to this channel and my other channels. Google YouTube, Easy Things to Draw or Enzyme Art. Those are my two big channels right now. I have a few other channels around, but you'll find them through me. So see ya.